Okay, so today is all about leftovers and things I need to use in my fridge before they go bad. So if you don't like those two things, then it might not be a recipe for you. So to get started, I have a leftover roasted chicken. By the way, the video for this roasted chicken, I will leave the link in the description and at the end of this video. Okay, so I'm going to be basically chopping, cutting, and taking all the meat off the bones of this roasted chicken. And I'll let you know after I do that how much I end up with. I'm also going to be using this carrot. It's kind of getting flimsy and old. I have 2 fresh sweet corn on the cob here that needs to be used, and I have some leftover gravy. And also this gravy was left over from the pan juices of that roasted chicken. This is around 1/3 of a cup left of this gravy. And I have some shiitake mushrooms that need to be used. You do not have to use shiitake mushrooms. They just need to be used. They're going bad. I normally use these in Korean stews that I make here at home. So I'm just going to chop them up and also put them in this pot pie. And here are a couple of other ingredients that I'm adding. I'm going to be using some heavy cream, around 1.5 cups of this. And I'm also going to be using some frozen peas. I forgot to show you, I also will be using like 1/2 cup of diced onion and 1 minced garlic. And you can use your own pie dough, your pie dough from scratch. I'm using store-bought, and there are a varieties that you can use. The pre-made pie crust that already come in a pan. You could also use puff pastry to top this. I'm using Original Pie Dough Puck. This is just, I guess, a local Texas company that makes pie dough. I want to give it a try. It was on sale. And I'm just going to follow the thawing rules or directions on the back of this package. And it is very frozen and solid, so I'm going to pop it into the microwave. So here are all the ingredients. Once again, I have leftover gravy. I already chopped the chicken. It's around 2.5 cups of chicken. Here is the minced garlic clove and around 1/3, 1/2 cup of diced onion, my chopped mushroom, sweet fresh corn, frozen peas, and I've sliced the carrot into like thin coin size. So here I have a preheating cast iron skillet, and this is also what I'm going to bake the pot pie in. It's just a 1-pot pan situation here. So I am going to add a couple tablespoons of oil. I'm using an olive oil. Again, use what you have, what you find convenient. I'm going to let this heat up a bit, move it around into the skillet. Also, at some point I will do a homemade chicken pot pie from scratch. This is just a leftover pot pie. So here I have around 1 tablespoon of butter that I've added to my cast iron skillet, and I'm going to let that melt down before I start sauteing my ingredients. By the way, I actually hesitated filming and editing this and putting it out, but I thought this is something that I normally do with leftover chicken that I have. It's an easy meal for my family. It easily serves 4 people. And, you know, I just said this might give someone an idea. It's not a perfect recipe, but this is what I do when I just have to use things that need to be used. Boys, no running on the stairs. I am not, son. I'm just getting started. Okay, so the butter is melted. My pan is heated well. The oil is mixed with the butter. So I am ready to saute my mushrooms. So I chopped up my mushrooms, and it gave me around a little over 1 cup of mushrooms. Again, you don't have to add mushrooms to this. Or if you do have mushrooms, any will do, I believe. These are shiitake. Button mushroom is probably the way to go. Now the key here is to get a golden brown sauteed mushroom. So you do not want to add any salt. If you add salt to a sauteing mushroom, it's going to turn into a watery mess. It's just going to get soggy before it ever browns. So again, when you're doing this, do not add salt to your pan. And I am working with like a medium to medium high heat. Nothing to burn it, but you do want to brown it. And at this point, you can see that it is sauteing down and it's getting a golden brown color. That's good. So I'm ready to pull these out and work on my next ingredients. Okay, so I'm going to add like 1/2 tablespoon of butter into the pan. I'll be doing this throughout the sauteing process, by the way. So another 1/2 tablespoon of butter melted into my already heated cast iron skillet. And now I am going to saute my carrots. Mind you, these are raw, so I am going to try to saute and cook these well, and I'm going to start sauteing the onion. Now, if you have a bag of peas that has like frozen peas, carrot combo, You do not even have to use fresh carrot. It's just I had this wonky carrot that needed to be used, so in it goes. I'm sprinkling some salt to sweat out these veggies. Again, I'm trying to saute these carrots because I don't want crunchy raw carrot in my pot pie. So I'm going to saute these for a good 3 to 5 minutes. And by the way, I have lowered the temperature because the natural sugars in the onion and carrot will start to burn if you're working with too high of a heat. So again, medium heat at this point. Okay, so it's been around 5 minutes or so. So now I'm going to add a tiny bit of butter. Again, I told you I would be doing this. And next I am going to start mixing in and sauteing my raw, fresh, sweet corn. Again, these are things that I needed to be used. It's not necessarily an ingredient to go into pot pie, but I'll tell you what, I do like sweet corn and it does taste great in pot pie. So anyways, I'm going to cook out this raw, fresh corn along with the onion and carrots. The reason why I didn't remove these is because the carrots really do need to cook well before I throw them in the pot pie. So this is just what I'm doing. Okay, so I sauteed my corn for a few minutes. Now I'm adding my fresh minced clove of garlic. Again, I'm working with a medium heat. And as you can see in the pan, it's starting to get a little sticky down there because of the natural sugars of all the corn, onion, and carrot. So I'm going to deglaze it with around a 1/3 cup of water. And I'm just going to give this a mix, scrape up any sticky fond that's at the bottom, and then I am just going to cover it with a lid and let it sweat out for a couple of minutes. Again, all this is doing is tenderizing that raw carrot. That's all I'm trying to do here. So I'm going to let that sweat out with a lid. Let it simmer for a couple of minutes on low. I've turned down the heat to low. So after a couple of minutes, this is what I'm left with. And I'm going to spill some of that condensation back in the pan because again, it could get too sticky down there. Okay, so giving this a good mix. And now I'm just going to start adding the rest of my ingredients. By the way, I've actually turned off the heat at this point because again, I'm going to bake it in the oven and the rest of the ingredients are already cooked. The residual heat from this cast iron skillet, it's still there, so it still sounds like it's cooking and simmering, but you know, cast iron skillets retain heat a while longer than probably other pans. So now I'm adding my gravy. This is around a 1/3 cup of leftover gravy. Now, because I made the gravy starting with a roux and then I added pan juices from that roasted chicken, it's really going to help keep a thick, creamy sauce. Now, if I did not have any leftover gravy, I would probably sprinkle a couple tablespoons of flour with more butter, cook out the flour, and add a flavorful chicken broth, and then add the cream sauce to make that pot pie chicken creamy sauce. So just if you don't have gravy, that's another way to do it. Okay, so now I am going to add my chicken. I managed to get around 2.5 cups of chicken. You don't have to use your own roasted chicken. You can buy rotisserie. You can maybe saute some diced chicken breast. Either way, it all works. Okay, so that's mixed in. Now I'm going to add roughly 1.5 cups of heavy whipping cream or heavy cream. Now, you probably could get away with using like some evaporated milk or whole milk because again, you know, I have a gravy in there, but I thought heavy cream would ensure that I have a thick sauce because the gravy might thin out too much if you use something like whole milk. Again, if you do decide to make your own roux and your own cream sauce, then milk will suffice because you're starting it with a roux and it will thicken. Just bear that in mind. So 1.5 cups of heavy cream goes into my skillet, and then I'll be adding the frozen peas. Again, at this point, my heat or my fire is off. I'm just working with whatever heat is left in my cast iron skillet because I don't want to thicken anything right now because it's going to bake for around 20 minutes. So in go the peas. And also, my gravy was well seasoned. It was concentrated pan juices from my roasted chicken. So at this point, you'll want to taste your cream sauce and season accordingly. I'm going to add some freshly cracked black pepper. And because most of these ingredients are not seasoned and the cream sauce addition, I'm going to add probably a little bit of salt, but that's it. So I'm going to let this sit on the side while I work on my pie dough. So this is a store-bought pie dough. I'm going to cut this in half because I don't need all of it. A half of this rolled out will do. I'm just going to get my flour ready to flour the surface and roll it out with a rolling pin. Okay, so my pie crust is rolled out. I'm just going to carefully, and I am not a professional when it comes to like pastries. I do the best I can, folks. So I'm just going to roll this on my rolling pin carefully. I almost lost it there. And then just lay it right on top of my pot pie filling. Now, there's not tons of pot pie filling where it's gonna go all the way up to the brim of my cast iron skillet. So I'm just gonna lay it on top and do the best I can to just kind of fold it over and make do with this rustic looking crust. Okay, so I'm going to start cutting some ventilation holes at the top. Well, really not a hole, there are a couple of slits here, but I like to bend back the points to make like a hole in the middle. I like the way that looks, but I'm not working with an ice cold crust, so it's kind of just melting. It's not keeping its shape. I'm doing the best I can. But I'm trying to work quickly. Now I'm just going to brush around a tablespoon of heavy cream on top just to help the browning. You can also do an egg wash. It's fine, or not at all. It'll still cook and brown, I'm sure. So once I do that, I'm going to quickly pop it into the oven. And you do want to preheat your oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit and bake it for 20 minutes. But in true gochujang mama on the fly fashion, I forgot to preheat my oven. So don't pull a gochujang mama. Be sure to preheat your oven. Again, this is what happens when I'm in a hurry. Hey. Anyways, I baked it. It still came out. I saved it. And here it is. Bubbly, golden brown, and delicious. I'm sure of it. I do this all the time. Now, I am going to let it rest for about 10-15 minutes. I know you guys probably are like, rest, but it really does help the pie set up, at least the cream sauce, so it doesn't run everywhere too quickly. So after letting it rest, I'm going to serve this chicken pot pie with more carbs. Yes, some delicious white rice that I've steamed. I use my rice paddle to give it like that dome shape. And then I just scoop a big spoonful of this delicious chicken pot pie. It is really comfort food 101, and I just love it. So I hope you give this recipe a try. I hope you like it, and thanks for watching.